Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Oracle of Light. I am your host, Shauna DeMellon. I am so grateful that each and every one of you are joining us and listening in and leaving your comments. And we just so appreciate you. Today, I have my friend, Lynzy Therrien is here. Yes, Lynzy is
Uh-huh.
here. Lynzy is an incredible healer, psychic, medium, and all of these beautiful capacities. And so she's here with us, and one of the bigger aspects to her work is actually shadow work. And so I am so excited that she's here and that she can talk about it and share, and is I'm looking forward to this conversation. So hello, hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm amazing. Hello, how are
It's
you?
funny, you're sitting in the light, I'm sitting in the dark. There's no
Right? It's like, look at us all balanced out and
right.
everything.
There must be balance. We will talk about that in depth.
Yes, there is balance. Would you share with everyone who is Lynzy? What is your who are you? Share all your beautiful magic with us.
That's a broad paintbrush.
Right? And
Well,
go.
right. Well, and now I think about that one video where she is trying to explain to her therapist how far it goes back. Right. 3 years old was when I knew that I was very, very different. Kids looked at me weird. They talked to me weird. I was bullied a lot uh, because for some reason, I would hear what they were meaning to say, what they didn't want to say in what they were saying, uh, the verbiage that they used. And so I would respond to what they were saying, but not what they were saying. They would feel called out and then they would beat me up. Okay, well, they wouldn't, with their words, they would beat me up. They were really nasty. And so I got quiet. I didn't say a whole lot, but always felt the energy around everybody. Even the bullies would gravitate to me when they were feeling down and needed healing. They would sit with me, and because I could see past their trauma, I would sit with them. And so at a young age, I was healing without even knowing that. It was very lonely, I won't lie. It took a long time to find my people. And it was through meeting my people that I really began to grow and develop. At 15 was when I started getting into more of I call it spellcraft, but the witchcraft, the alchemy of it all, the spirituality of it all. And I was raised Catholic, and so luckily my mother was okay with it as long as I had my altar in my closet so I could close the doors when I was done. So she closeted me, but I mean, and look, my mother, that's something that she did always support me with, but knew that it was not overly accepted back in the 90s. So she tried to protect me as well. So she would help me as best she could. And yeah, I kept a lot of this private to myself until I was well into my late 30s, to be honest. Would read for friends, not trust my gift. I see past the mask as well. So, and we're going to put a pin in the mask and put that to the side because not always. Because when we are living in our ego, that mask can be very, very thick.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been fooled as well. But again, those are my lessons that I needed to learn as well. But we will get into that. But yes, it was in my 30s that I really decided that I was done living for everybody else. I was going to live for myself, and that started the shadow work, and that started the rest. And now we're still going. We will never end that. So
Right? I love
here
that.
I am.
Yeah, we will never end. I love that. And I was also raised Catholic. So it was
Mm.
like, I tell people we didn't have mediums on TV normalizing this. We didn't have books. We didn't have podcasts. We didn't have people talking about it. It was just, that was a whole other ball of wax. And I love how you said, when you start to show up unapologetically you, right? Like
Hmm.
we get to that. I was bullied too. I ran home from school. I had to go certain ways to get a home. It was just like, okay, this is what's happening. And
Hmm.
I think it's so refreshing to meet people who have been through so many different experiences, and we come to a place where it's like, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing. And if you love it, great. And if you don't, that's okay too. And just
Well, yes.
this is what we're doing. And it's so what is your wheelhouse? What is it? Can you share with everyone what are your offerings? What is it that and what do you really love to do? What's your favorite thing?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, brass tacks is the healing of it. I love watching people. I like seeing the light bulb go off because in my mind's eye, I can see it when it happens. And then seeing the growth that comes from that. I
Yeah.
have people that I've been working with for over a year. And, I should say off the hop, I don't have any fancy letters at the end of my name. I I am not a therapist. I am not even a counselor. I call it counseling with cards, but I am not, there is no certification here. I work with my knowing, with my past experiences, um, and just what I see. And when I say see, it's feel, but I see the energy. I see the energy. I see the energy,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Now, there was somebody that said to me a week ago, she's like, well, you're a therapist. You shouldn't be doing this. And as a psychologist, I said, I am not a psychologist. I have a background in psychology. I didn't go back and finish my degree because the woo kicked in again. I said, and I have never said I'm a therapist. I'm a grief counselor. Yes, I am not a therapist. And so, yeah, I think people confuse it. And I think what I've experienced over the years is that, my ex-husband, as an example, he was like, go back and finish your degree because you can write receipts. And like people respect that. That sounds better. And it was just like, there's this idea, right, that people have. And it's like, no, what I do is real and it's authentic. And I help people. So, and like you were saying, you see the shift, you see the change. I know that I've saved lives. I
Yes.
know the impact that this work
Yes.
does. And it at the premise of it, like you had said, it's, seeing the shift. Like we can see when it clicks in and you're like, oh, and we can feel the energy. And it's like, oh my gosh, those are those aha moments, I call
Yes.
them. I'm like, oh,
Well,
yes.
and because I do it the way that I do, there are so many people, and because I mean, let's be real. Everybody is psychic. Because everybody is intuitive.
Yeah.
Everybody is intuitive, just not everybody knows how to use it. Nobody, not everybody trusts themselves enough. Um, I've just opened it up and accepted that that's just what it is. Now, I am not fluff. I'm not, I am to the point. I'm blunt. I call it lovingly harsh. I am not going to tell you that it's going to be okay. I've had people come to me and say, "Well, but this reader said that everything is fine." And I said, "Sure. Everything is fine. Are you okay with fine? You're okay with fine for the rest of your life?" Nothing's going to change, but they don't want to tell you that because they want you to come back.
Mhm.
I want to help you. And so you are going to hear what you need, not what you want. And if you want me to tell you that it's fine, I am not going to tell you that. I'm going to tell you that things need to change and it's your fault. And here's where you're accountable.
Yeah.
And here's where
Yeah.
we go through a moment where they become upset. That's why I have a disclaimer. Uh, and then again, I see the light bulb go off. We are always accountable for every situation that we're in, and we need to identify that if we are going to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was somebody that everyone asks me, they're like, well, psychic, medium, da da da. So I did a TikTok, I think it was like a week ago. And I said, okay, psychic is I'm reading the energy of you, and everyone can do this,
Mm.
past, present, and future based on your choices.
Right?
Everything, and I tell people everything in your reality you've created. So it's taking
Absolutely.
absolute ownership. And that's, and I love the work of Peter Crone because he says, until you take full ownership of everything, nothing's going to change. How can you create a life that's different, or a life that you love, or a life, right? A life that isn't just fine, unless you take full ownership of, I say, the good, the bad, the ugly, the shadow, the light, all of it.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there's oftentimes that we don't want to acknowledge where we didn't show up the greatest,
Yeah.
because then it means we're bad. And
Yeah.
we're not bad.
Mm-mm.
It's just how we showed up at that time, and acknowledging the why, the how, and correct that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I love that because I tell people, we don't have to be defined by what's happened. Everybody's had trauma, everybody's had stuff. And I
Mhm.
said, it's a pivotal moment where you get to decide, okay, that's what I'm going to continue to play in. That's the energy I want to continue to play with. Or we start reaching towards something else. We start creating something that's beautiful or magical or uplifting. And I think the big part too is understanding that we all have a shadow. We all have a shadow, and that shit gets triggered, and it just poke, 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 and it's like until you're willing to actually acknowledge it and look at it, it's just gonna. I keep telling people there was a woman that had booked in with me years ago, and of course I always have permission to share. She had booked in with me years ago, and she said in the session, the first question out of the gates was, "Should I end my marriage?" I said, "Well, I'm not going to tell you what to do. First and
Never.
foremost, I'm not your guru. I will hold space. I will facilitate. You need to make that decision." I said, if you want to stay for another 20 years and be abused and cheated on and treated like garbage, then yes, stay." And she looked at me, she said, "How do you know that?" I said, "Well, I just know things."
Right.
And then she said, "Okay, well, I started seeing this other person, so I should get divorced and keep seeing this other person." I said, "Well, the issue is that if unless we fix things, fine tune it, heal it, shift it, change it here, it's going to keep repeating." So, and she's like, "But this guy's really great." I said, "They all are in the beginning, aren't they?"
Right.
And so it was like, so she has since, I have permission to share, she has since, done her work, was single for a couple of years, and now she's like, okay, because everyone's reflecting.
Maybe there was something right there after all.
Maybe there
Yeah.
was something, because I tell people, and they don't want to hear this either. I'll say, everyone's a mirror to us. Everyone's
Yes.
reflecting something. So if you're getting triggered by this person continuously, that's a gift. Okay, what
Yes.
is that? What's the trigger? Why am I feeling like this? What is it? So I always tell people, get curious. Look at this. Don't gaslight yourself. Don't throw yourself in the garbage, but just be curious because, like you said, you're right where you're meant to be, and you've made the best decisions the whole time. So when we're here and we've got all this information, yes, of course we would make different decisions, different choices, but at that time we didn't have all this extra information.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Well, and one thing that our friend Tracy taught me is you need to go into your basement
yeah.
all the time. I mean, in the real life too, if whoever's watching has a basement, go and look at your foundation. Go and make sure that your foundation is still good and you don't have any cracks. Because if you aren't fixing those cracks and properly with injections, we're not going to use silly putty to just band-aid it
Paint
over.
it or put some wallpaper.
That's right. Then water starts getting in, and now it gets bigger and bigger, and now your home is crumbling from the bottom up because you aren't continuing to fortify and maintain your foundation. And so if your foundation is not intact
Mhm.
as it should be, you are not going to be able to show up for your partner. And because you can't show up for your partner, you are going to set them up for failure, and you're going to see them that it's their fault.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. I love that. And I love how we all have our different lingo. We all have, but it's all the same idea, the same guts. I call it your foundation. I said, you can't build a nice solid house if you got a crack in the foundation.
right.
So the foundational work, like our beliefs, our
The
minds.
mix has to be right. You have to mix it
Yes.
right
Yes, it does,
and
right?
pour it properly. Let it cure properly before you do anything.
Yes, right. Like, and in my world, it's your body needs time to adjust. So I have people that take Reiki with me. They're like, "Yeah, I've got clients on Monday." I said, "Da, da, 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 da. You haven't integrated anything."
Right.
So
Right.
you need time to integrate. And same thing with our healing work. What would you say? Are there a set, are there set parameters around shadow work? Like, there are 13 of the main ones? Like, are there set numbers of shadows, or it varies? Do you see common shadows? Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our projections, we project our shadows onto everybody, our judgments of everybody else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for example, we have, um, we have women that get older, or even younger, that have a problem with women dressing any kind of way that shows anything.
Yeah.
Because it looks trampy or sleazy, or, she's asking for trouble or whatever. It has nothing to do with the girl dressed in the really cute dress that she actually looks pretty cute in. It's that this one very much would like to wear that dress and doesn't feel confident enough to wear it herself. So if she can't, if I don't feel confident enough, you can't either.
Yep.
You
Oh,
can't either.
that is
And
so
so if you
huge.
are going to, then I'm going to judge you for it and shame you so
Yeah.
that you don't.
Yeah, I'm going to make you wrong for the choice I'm not willing to take. I'm not willing to
Right.
make for myself.
Right.
So fascinating. And
It's
it's when I
insecurity.
turned, it is, right? When I turned 40, my mom was like, okay, good. Now you'll be sensible and you'll cut your hair. And I said, really? Should I stop
My
wearing
mom.
makeup, cut my hair? Should I start wearing mom jeans? Like, what else should I do? And I said, you know what's going to happen? And she's like, what? I said, I'm going to grow it down to my butt just for you. She goes, what? I said, yes. And guess what? I'm going to keep wearing makeup because I feel beautiful. Look at Cher. She's 77 for God's sake. She just turned 78. It's like there's this there you're right. It's like people have to make us wrong and bastardize things because they're not willing to choose it. So it's fascinating.
And those ones are the ones that say, it's just who I am. Take me or leave me. It's just who I am. It's not who you are. It's who you choose to be.
It's who
It's
you
who you
choose
choose
to
to be.
be.
And if you choose to be a dick, people are not going to receive that well. And you're going to, there's the consequences that people remove your access to them
Hmm?
because they don't want your energy taking theirs, quite
That
frankly.
is, it's so true. And I don't I don't know if you found this, but I've really found this in the last year. You mentioned earlier about growing up feeling really lonely. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere.
Mm.
And then about a year ago, I said to my guides, I said, if there are people in my world that are not beneficial or that they shouldn't be in my world, can you just help me highlight this? Because I see the potential in people. So I see their greatness, I see the potential, I see all this lovely stuff, but then I've had to realize they're not going to choose it. They're not operating from that space. And so potential is great if they step into it and choose it. And so then I think within about 3 months, there were probably 8 people that left my world. I was like, oh, I did not
Uh,
see that. I didn't see that coming. Yeah. Revolving
shadow work,
door. Yeah.
shadow work. Expect to lose most.
Yeah.
Expect to lose most because the ones that are in your life currently, especially the ones that it's not a great dynamic, you have taught them that you don't have boundaries, you have requests. It's very hard then to shift that mindset. And so when you start actually standing and rooting your boundaries that were taken as a request, people they don't receive that well. And now you're the problem. You're the problem. You have grown, you are growing and evolving, and they are not.
Yes.
And so because of that, you're the problem, not them.
That is
So
so huge. I love that. Requests versus boundaries. And it's funny because a year ago, I started thinking, okay, I have not had boundaries. And then when I started to have boundaries, even with family, with friends,
right.
like people I thought we would joke, we were going to be lifetime friends and blah, blah, blah. And it was just like, I was able to take a step back and go, you don't get to treat me like that.
No.
I own it. I own it. I didn't stand up, da 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 da, wanted to be liked, da 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 da, right? Like I absolutely always look at my side of it because it's just like it's there, it's juicy. Because if I can get it there, then I don't have to have it repeat 10 times.
Right.
It's like,
And the ones that are saying, well, how do I know if their requests are boundaries? Well, what happens when they cross that boundary? Is the consequence that the access is removed, or do they just need to be really, really, really freaking sorry about it? And then we move on. Because then it's a request. You are requesting them to be kind to you. You are requesting them to remain faithful, to remain loyal if it's a relationship, friendship, to, just be there in the time that, whatever. Um, it doesn't work.
no. So if someone so I work with this every day with clients and on the lives. People talk about boundaries, and I say to them, no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
And this is fabulous because the requests. So if you have someone in your life, I guess this is all about what they choose then. So if you have someone in your life and they continually do, so I had this friend and she kept bringing this topic up that was very upsetting. And I said to her, could you please don't do that? It's upsetting. Okay. It's upsetting. It's not a topic I want to talk about. Okay. Let's talk about other stuff. And
Right.
she did it like she kept doing it. Every now and again, she would bring it up. And I finally said to her, I said, you're not listening to me. Like you're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm asking you to not do that. And then she's like, oh, well, you're just taking it too serious. Or, oh, and then again,
Arising.
reflecting, projecting her stuff
Yes.
onto me. And it was fascinating. And then when the relationship ended, I knew that it was going to end at some point. I thought, this just doesn't feel good. When the relationship ended, she made up this big BS story about me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then people were coming back to me telling me, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So she had to make me wrong for the relationship to end because she wasn't willing to grow. Like I'm
Right.
like, I'm like you, like I'm like, we're never done. I'm going to climb this mountain, then I'm going to go climb this mountain, and then we're always doing.
So when your request changed to a boundary,
Yeah,
then it's a problem.
yeah,
You're the problem.
yeah.
And, I heard something a few days ago, and it shook me.
Oh,
They don't get upset with your boundaries if they don't intend to cross them.
ooh, that's juicy. Oh, they don't get upset with your boundaries if they don't intend to.
Your boundaries are not a problem if they have no intention of crossing them. If they become upset with your boundaries, it's because they are telling you right then and there, I have no intention of honoring that boundary. I don't value that boundary. So you now need to make a decision whether or not that person remains in your life, because now you know that they are not going to respect that boundary. And if you keep them around, that's where you are accountable for, the shitty shit that comes in.
It's true,
And
right? And it's yeah, I had a relationship years ago, and just out of the blue, in my world, we call it the shut the fuck up rule. Unless
yep,
somebody asks me or pays me, I don't say anything. And this friend of mine she was in this abusive relationship, and she was like, but he didn't say this or da da da. And I said, but if he had said that, that have changed? Even getting involved with this person? She got so upset, and she's like, oh, well, I could say the same thing about you, and just totally lashed out. And it was like, ow, that's the first time it
that's
happened.
a nerve.
And then it was after that, it was like, it was interesting because then it was like I saw the relationship differently. It was like I still enjoyed spending time with her, but it was like it was different then. So in that kind of situation, like, is it possible then that that person can go,
Involved and she didn't, right? So you're looking down at her. I see it as a level. And you're looking down like, are you coming? She's like, no, I'm good here. And okay, well then I guess the relationship, the friendship is over. We no longer have anything in common. And that's okay.
and that's
We need
okay.
to be okay with letting friendships, relationships go. They don't need to go bad and toxic for us to recognize that it's just not working.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
not working.
It's just not working. And it's fascinating because I always tell people, they're like, a lot of people that I work with, they feel lonely. And I said, I get it. I get it. And I said, I always tell the universe, you know what? I need more ground crew. Bring me people that are fun and, I can explore with and da 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 da. Da. And I say, because for me, it's kind of it's not like friends or a revolving door, but because I keep up leveling and I'm
Yes.
not going to stop. And it's
No.
like, I'm not going to wait for you. I'm not gonna come back down and get you. It's like, no, I'm up here. You got some work to do. And
Right.
then-
And unfortunately, that's why marriages fail as well.
yeah,
We expect that we are going to have the same partner for the rest of our life. And our partners, including we and our partners, we change and evolve throughout. And so, there was a very old man that was talking about his wife and the best relationship advice that he could give. I think they were married for 60 or 70 years. And he said, understand that I grew with my wife. I got to know my wife, every version of her. She was 7 or 8 different versions. And I had to, it was my duty as her husband to get to know the woman that she was always and continuing to evolve into and growing into.
yeah,
And I loved her, and because I loved her growth. but she was
Wow.
different women, you know, and I loved every single one. And we sometimes we don't grow with our partners and then it just doesn't work. Well, he's not doing this, she's not doing that. And if she or he would just do, well, they're not.
Come
They
on.
we must allow our partners to show up for us
Yeah.
the way that they show up and see if that works for us. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't work. You don't try to change that partner into what you
No.
need from them. They are telling you, I cannot meet, I don't have the capacity, the capability of meeting your emotional needs. I can't do that for you.
Yeah.
And if you stay, you cannot then be upset that they're not meeting your emotional needs because they're telling you, I cannot do that.
They are. And it's like, I don't know what it is. There's this control thing that I see common with a lot of women. Like they're going to control it. No, no, no. He's saying this, but
Yep.
no, no, no. He really means this, or this manipulative undertone of control. And it's like, you can get the horse to water, but he needs to choose to drink. Like, and here they got the straw and they're spitting it into his mouth. They're like, come on, you really want this. And it's like, what is that? And then I think, okay, that must go back to a shadow piece
I do.
that you're not good enough, or you have to work for love, or you have to prove that you're worth choosing, or da 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 da, right? Like I love our conversation because it's like, we see those patterns. So that was my other question for you too. So a pattern is really just a shadow. Is
Well, the
that's how it's
pattern, the
showing up?
cycle, if we continue to have the same thing happen, I don't know why this just keep happening. Well, you didn't learn the lesson. You keep saying, oh, I learned my lesson. I'm not going to do that again. Well, but did you? Did you really? Or did you just realize that, oh, I didn't like that. That didn't make me feel very good. I don't want to experience that again.
Right.
That's not learning the lesson. It's going in, seeing exactly where you started tolerating this and teaching these people how to treat you and what you
Yes.
will put up with.
Yes. I think
Because
that, yes.
and then, I mean, I used to hang red flags like curtains and then build my aesthetic around it. Pretty, 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 pretty pink flags. They're pretty pink
They're
flags.
pink.
No,
Yeah.
they were red.
Yeah.
They were red. And I remember that was the first time I realized that my team, my spirit team, uh, I wasn't having conversations with myself in my head. It was my team because I was going to go through this cycle again. And I heard them say, oh, so we're doing this again. You're really going to go with that? Okay. And it wasn't me. I thought, why would I say that to myself? Because it was in my own voice. And right then and there, I was told, you are about to repeat another cycle, another pattern. And I didn't listen. And it was repeated. This time I learned it. This time I realized he told me right then and there, I am not a safe space for you.
Yep.
I'm not.
Yep.
And I said, okay, well, that's okay. I guess I like chaos.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we like chaos.
Because the ones that have trauma, uh, we thrive in chaos. And so when it gets level and calm, it gets very uncomfortable. And so we have to drudge up something so that now there's stress and chaos again. Which is
Oh
not
my God, we're amazing. And it's fascinating because I love that. I see it as they're tolerating less than, or they're settling,
yes.
or whatever it is, because then it keeps the story about them intact.
Yes.
So it's,
Yes.
people that have, I see it with a lot of women who date, especially dating in this reality right now it's just a shit show. It's just a shit show. And it's like, okay, well, I work on my mindset and we work on this and we're incanting and we're feeling it and da 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 da. But it's like, okay, it's like, oh my gosh. And it's fascinating, in this last little while, I've thought, I'm just not even going to focus on trying to date right now. I'm going to keep just focusing on what's working in my life and keep working on my stuff because it gets exhausting. It's
The
like,
mindset is wrong, though. It's because our mindset is wrong.
yeah,
When we ask either men or women that are dating, what are you looking for?
yeah.
We hear about like the very superficial. Um,
What should we be asking? So we ask, so what are you
don't
looking for?
ask.
Don't ask. Oh, so just just don't ask and then just spend time with this person, just get to
And
know.
time with them.
Yeah.
Because people tell you exactly what they're looking for, what they're all about, just by letting them talk. Because you say, what are you looking for? They're going to give you the answer that they think you're looking for.
Yeah. I have
This is
probably,
how the
yeah.
mask gets put on. And that's why, we have these men and women that have this, we want to control and say, well, I want this and I want that. And if they could just do that. Well, because at the very beginning, people that wear that mask, and we all have a mask,
Sure.
just so you know, RBF, your mask slipped unintentionally. Right? So if you're just now, people are like, what's wrong? You're like, oh shit, oh, I'm fine. Well, because you slipped. And it's not that it's RBF, it's just I'm not masking.
Yeah.
Right? So we put on this mask and we put our best foot forward, and it's not even us. It's who we believe this person would like us to be. It's now why we have women that are saying that they like Star Wars when really they don't know anything about Star Wars whatsoever, and can't stand it, but now are being forced to watch all of the Star Wars movies. No hate against Star Wars to whoever's going to be, it's an example. You're right. But don't now that she now that look, she's sitting there watching those Star Wars movies, and that's her fucking fault.
Yeah. She's doing that.
She said,
Oh,
Star Wars.
I did the same thing. When I first met my ex-husband years ago, I didn't ski. I got skis that year. He's like, have you mountain biked? No. So I gave up going to the gym, gave up what I love doing to go take over his life and to fit into his world. And it was like, I did. And he would catch me every now and again. He would put like the Matrix on or something. And I'd be like, I need to clean the blinds. I need to do this. He's like, are you decorating? I'm like, no, I'm watching. I'm paying attention. Because it did not interest me whatsoever. So it's fascinating, right? Because for the longest time, I had this fear of getting lost in a relationship because I knew that I would do that. I would be like, who do you want me to be? Who can I be so that you accept me? Who can I be so
Drama.
you love me, right? Who do you want me to morph into and twist and contort myself into so that you accept me, you choose me, instead of going, you know what? I'm going to let this all out.
Yes.
I believe there are men on the planet who will be like, oh, there she is. I've
There's
been looking for you.
8.1 billion people on the planet. 8.1 billion.
Yes, there's
Yet
got to
we
be some
continue to fight and chase ones that don't want us. Try
that.
to prove our worth when really we could just stand, look, the ones you're awkward and I'm talking about me now. Like I am awkward and kind of clumsy, and the
You're
right one
amazing.
find that endearing
Yes.
and want more of that, and
Yes.
won't make fun of me and
No.
make me feel badly because
No.
I said something wrong.
Exactly.
It
Yeah. Exactly.
they
I think
build you up. They don't
they don't
push you
tear you down.
down. Yeah.
No, that's exactly it, right? Like it's acknowledging that. And I find a lot of the clients that I work with right now, they get into this whole breadcrumbing thing.
Mm.
So they have this person come in and say, "Oh, it's fascinating. I had somebody come back a couple of years ago, and when we were first together, it was magical, and then it just blah, 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 whatever. And then he came back, and it was the breadcrumb. He's like, "Of course we're going to be together," and then fizzles out. I'm like, "Where did you go? What just happened?" And instead of going, kind of not cool, gonna detach and go over here. Same thing. I got caught in this. Or where are you? Oh, you're back. Okay. Okay. Are you okay? What is that? Where are you going? And it just became this cycle. And it's like, that's abusive. That's not okay. That's just, no, we don't do that. Like
Right.
I deserve better than that. And so I find a lot of it too is knowing what you deserve, knowing what you bring to the table,
Yes.
and being willing, like you're saying, being willing to look at those different aspects of us, like we're not perfect, where we have stuff. And you're right, like there's like over 8 billion people on the planet. And it's fascinating why women will fixate on the one that doesn't want them. The one
Think
that
about all the love spells, make them, are you kidding? Let's manipulate
like
somebody.
practical magic.
Well, have you not? Well, no. Practical magic and the craft. I
Yeah.
mean, you asked how they fared. Don't do love spells. We don't manipulate somebody's will to get them back, to make them fall in love with you because you are not getting who you think you are getting. You are going to have the most toxic, obsessive soul destroying relationship that you will struggle for years and years and years, and you will have to cut cords and do more spell work to get that corrected. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Mm.
I
Don't.
did it when I was 15 and I didn't know better. Nobody told me.
Right.
I was 15. I was still, my brain wasn't developed at that point. That's my excuse. I know better now. It took a
Well,
lot of work to have to get that
yeah,
sorted.
it really is. And it's, and everything goes back to our childhood. Those first 2 years is when we form our attachment styles, for God's sake. So if we didn't have secure attachments with the people in our world, if we didn't feel safe, if our needs weren't tended to, that impacts us. And then those first, 7, 8 years, we're in theta brainwaves. So we're like picking up, like we're like sponges, picking up the good, the bad, the ugly, and then we don't even talk about ancestral stuff, right? Like there's so many layers to it.
Right.
It's like, okay, we are multifaceted.
Yep.
Yep.
Agreed. We have to remember that we have to keep the balance here with everything. So that includes, and I said that includes like your shadow work. So when we're going in and we're thinking about how somebody has wronged us, what's our part in that?
Yeah.
What's your part?
Yeah. Did we allow it? Did we choose it? Did we brush it away? It's like, I find a lot of people will keep what isn't what their heart's desire is because something's better than nothing. They chose them. They wanted to feel desired. Like it's keeping a story in play, right? Yeah, the ego. And then it's just like, okay, I find a lot of people are not comfortable being alone. Like I've been single now for over a year. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's been the best fucking year of my life. Painful, and it's been the best all rolled into one. And it's like, if you don't add value to my life, stop.
I fill my own cup. Yeah, I fill my own cup.
Exactly.
I am whole on my own, and if you are coming in, you better be a champion.
Yes, it's like you need to add value. This was one of the exercises I did when I did the deep dive after the divorce. One of the coaches I work with, she's like, I want you to make a list of what you bring to the table. And I was like, what do you mean? What do I bring to the table? She goes,
How are you going to show up for your partner?
exactly. So knowing what I bring to the table, knowing how I show up, she's like, why would you let anything less than that meet you?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, why would you let this show up because it's better than nothing? Or why would you settle? Or I would feel sorry for people. I'd be like, oh, come on my team and I'll help. No, we don't need to
Wouldn't call people out. I would just say, well, I didn't really like that, and I just know that they did that. Okay, well, by you not calling them out, you don't allow their growth to take place.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of selfish, actually, and you're doing it because you don't want them to be mad at you. You don't want to feel badly when they get mad at you for you calling them out on something that they need to very much be called out on.
Yeah.
So you just don't want to feel bad. You need to hand that back to them because if they get mad at you, they're projecting back onto you, and you say, that's your burden. I'm just going to hand that right back. And my therapist taught me, let them be mad.
Yes.
Let them be mad.
Yes.
It's theirs. It's not yours.
Theirs.
So don't take on their guilt and their shame.
Exactly. It's theirs. It's their reaction. It has nothing to do with us. If it triggers them, you're welcome because there's a gift in there for you.
Now, do you want to hear something really interesting though?
Yes, of course.
Because we have the ego, and the ego plays a really big part in like our unhealthy coping mechanisms, the things that we do to, not go into shadow. The ego hates the shadow.
Hates it. Hates the shadow.
Hates the shadow because the shadow is everything that the ego is trying to suppress. Why do you think it's shadowed and shrouded?
That was another question I wanted to ask you. What is the definition of the shadow? What are those shadow pieces, parts, or what are they? What is it?
It's your trauma, whether or not you know it or not, whether it's suppressed or trauma that you know is there. It's the I am who I am personality traits. It's the unhealthy coping mechanisms as well. Even though the ego is the one, it feeds it that still trickles and it comes up from the shadow, right? We cope the way that we do because of the shadow. We feed the ego with our shadow, even though the ego hates it, right? And so when we're triggered,
Yep.
that is the time that the ego and the shadow come and they gang up on you and they attack you together. And that's why it's such a mind fuck, because your ego's like, oh, and your shadow's like, oh no. And your ego's like, no, oh no. And that's why you're triggered, because you're now being ganged up on by both your ego and your shadow.
Wow.
So
Okay,
if
that's
you want to
awesome.
get your ego down, you must go into your shadow and heal that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And once you do that, and now you have your ego and your shadow kind of sitting together, that's when you're able to recognize that people's opinions of you, their projections, are none of your business.
Yep.
They're biased anyway,
Mm-hmm.
because nobody actually knows the best decision for you except for you. You are the one that truly has all of the information. You have all of the cards. And you start living for yourself, and you are okay with people not liking you.
Yeah.
I am cool with people liking me. I'm cool with people not liking me. I couldn't imagine everybody wanting my energy. That'd be exhausting. So I'm good with any of it. Take me or leave me, as I stand here authentically, not as my mask, but as I'm sitting here as authentic as I know how to be in this moment.
Yeah.
Not quite as, will never be fully authentic. Anybody who thinks that they're going to sit in their full authenticity is going to die continuing to try to achieve that and feeling like they have failed.
Mm-hmm.
If you recognize that as long as you stand in your authenticity as best you know how at that time, you will continue to open and bloom and blossom and grow into that radiant soul that you are meant to push out. Make sense?
Love that. Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. There's a couple of years ago when I stumbled upon the work of it's the law of assumption. So,
Yes.
right. So that premise is, if I assume that you're going to be wonderful to me, then you're going to be wonderful. And if you're not being wonderful, then that's a problem with me, that I need to go in and I need to do more work. And then
But it was your fault?
yeah. So if
They
you
weren't
show
being
up,
kind to you.
yeah,
You were,
if I,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So if you don't show up in my world the way that I would like you to, that means there's something in me that you're reflecting. So then, and it's total mind fuck, because I'm like, okay, there are people that are in alignment with me and people that are clearly not in alignment with me. So
Yes.
why would I entertain people that are not in alignment with me and then think I'm the problem and I have to fix me because you're not showing up the right way? It's just this whole, it's kind of a teeter-totter. Yes, whatever we, like you're saying, whatever we're broadcasting out to the universe, that's what's going to start to match to us. So if it's lovely, then great. If it isn't, okay, we've got to look at some stuff.
For sure.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's just like, it's really quite fascinating, because a lot of the techniques that I see them doing is manipulating people.
Yes.
So I practiced with one of these techniques when we separated. When did we separate? We separated 2015. We were separated, and I, kind of practiced with different energy techniques and completely had him completely shifted. And then things kind of started to fall apart again, and it was game on. It was like he was just ferocious, because
Yes.
it was. And then what they say is, they actually say in this law of assumption stuff, they say no one has free will in your reality. No one has free will, that they are who you decide they are. So, right, you know what I mean? So there's so much information out there.
Ooh, but listen,
Yeah.
but I think that's where perception is reality comes into play. My perception is my reality. It may not be true,
Mhm.
but it is reality to me.
Yep.
So if I think you're a shitty person, it's based on how you have treated me, how I have seen you treat others, what I've heard about you. Oftentimes I I take that with a grain, but it's basically what I know of you based on my experience. Somebody else can say that you're wonderful, but if you have treated me poorly, I don't like you.
Mm-hmm.
And that perception, it's true for both.
Yep.
Right? So I had my ex say, I am not the shitty person you paint me out to be. And I said, you're painting yourself based on your behavior with me.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do with me. So yes, you are in my world.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else may think you're great, and that's probably right too. Not for me though.
Perception. I
Right?
love that.
Perception
Yeah.
is right. Yep.
Yep. I love that.
Which is why feelings are valid.
Feelings
Right?
are totally
All
valid.
feelings
Yes.
are valid. It doesn't make it so. It doesn't make it true.
Mm-hmm.
But feelings are.
Fabulous, fabulous. I have so loved our conversation today. It's fantastic. We will have to reconvene and have another conversation about shadow work and talk even more about it. I think it's so fascinating. I think I love how Brene Brown, she has the quote, he's in the arena, he's bloodied, he's this, he's that, but it's really getting in the arena with your own stuff. And that's where
Absolutely.
the magic is. And that is where we start to release ourselves from any of the constraints and all the different things that we have going on in our world.
Take inventory, and not in a shameful, judgy way. It's just inventory. Figure out what is working for you, why it's working for you, if it is a benefit, because sometimes it's working for you, but it's a detriment.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to take that inventory. That is the shadow work. You're taking the inventory. You're acknowledging it. We miss a step, and this is just kind of the last thing that I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
We miss a step. Everybody wants to do light work. Light work. I want to do light work. The emotional, the spiritual growth, the development.
Yep.
Again, balance. You can't have light without the dark. You must go into the shadow, because the shadow allows the light work to be done, and then it just goes hand in hand. As you kind of heal and recognize your shadows, you grow and develop from that, and then we go into another one, and that's how you're leveling up.
Yep.
It's so important. And the key when you're in your shadow and you're looking in it and talking to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
the 7-year-old that you blamed, at 7, you blamed yourself for whatever happened when you were little.
Yeah,
The pigs didn't protect you. It was not your fault.
exactly.
It's acknowledging that. We say forgive yourself. Oh, you need to forgive yourself. Let that go. Forgive yourself. Okay, well, that's really easy. How do I do that? It's taking the inventory. It's looking inwards. You have to then apologize to yourself for all of the shit that you put yourself through because you felt that you weren't worthy, that you didn't have enough value, that you were settling for whatever reason. Apologize to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot forgive yourself if there's no apology.
Mm-hmm.
What are you forgiving if there's no apology?
Exactly.
Well, and so that's how the healing happens. And don't forget, we're not broken. We're not here to be fixed
Mm-hmm.
or damaged. We need healing.
Yep.
Nobody's broken. Nobody needs to be fixed.
Nobody's broken. I love that. So true. I love that. Where can everybody find you? You have a website. Where can we find you?
I do. I'm on Facebook and Insta, obviously, Lynzy Therrien. I'm TikTok. I do lives there.
Okay.
Cunning Folk Pagan Emporium is the shop that I am based out of. So, websites there. There's a tab there, although there's something wrong with the calendar currently, although by the time this airs, it will be fine. So booking is there. But again, I spend most of my time on TikTok, so come find me there, Lynzy Bins,
Okay.
Lynzy.
We will do that. Yes. And we'll have everything in the show notes so everyone can find you. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I absolutely love our conversation and I'm so excited for everyone to meet you. Yes, yes, yes.
If you need to get your ass handed to you in a really good way, come find me.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.